Chapter 20, Section 2 continued. The Spanish-American War was going to be very costly for Spain. Spain is going to have to, as a result of this war, give up their claim to Cuba. They're going to give control of Puerto Rico and Guam to the United States. And they're going to have to sell control of the Philippines to the U.S. for $20 million. As a result of the Spanish-American War, the United States is now a world power. I mean, look at us. We had gained control of overseas territory. We had gained new trading bases to increase our economic power. So let's start by talking about what's going on over with the Philippines. The Philippines were sold to us as a result of this war. 1898. Very few Americans had any clue where the Philippines were located. Even President McKinley admits he couldn't find the Philippines on a map within 2,000 miles. But they were now ours. And there was going to be some questions about us annexing the Philippines. And Americans started wondering if this was the proper thing to do. You know, to annex a foreign territory, to rule its people and its government. So on one hand, you had people that were very pro-annexation. For example, if you were a businessman, a lot of businessmen wanted it as a trading post for Asia. You got some who want it as a refueling station. You know, you could get fuel halfway across in Hawaii, then you get over there to Asia, and you got a safe place to get fuel once you're over there. Some want to bring democracy to the Philippines. And some simply say, if we don't rule them, somebody from Europe will. So it might as well be us. But on the other hand, you had people that were against annexation of the Philippines. And they had one big reason. Very simply, they said, denying the Philippines their independence would violate our Declaration of Independence. This document that was written when we broke away from England, you know, guaranteeing us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So how can we deny that to another people? And the opponents are going to form an anti-imperialist league. So when the treaty comes to the Senate to approve, the Senate is barely going to pass this treaty. But they do pass it. On February 6th, 1899, the Philippines are annexed. But for this to happen, an agreement had to be made. Otherwise, the Senate may not have passed the treaty. The deal made in the Senate was this. If we annex the Philippines, the Filipinos would never become U.S. citizens. Now, if they moved here on their own and went through the process, they could, but we would never grant this oversweeping, just boom, you guys are all citizens. And the second part of the deal was this. The Philippines would never be a state. So there was the deal that was made in 1899. Let's talk about how it went over in the Philippines. If you remember, there was Emilio Aguinaldo, that rebel leader that helped us defeat Spain in the Philippines. Well, he had already set up a provisional government in the Philippines once Spain was defeated, proclaiming himself as president of the Philippine Republic. And he warned the United States that if we tried to take them over, they would fight us. Just as they had fought Spain, they had no interest in being ruled by an outside power. So for the next 3 years, we're going to be fighting in the Philippines. This rebellion is not crushed until 1902. But in that fighting, hundreds of thousands of Filipinos died, and 4,000 U.S. soldiers die in this fight. Now that we had full control of the Philippines, Congress is going to pass the Philippine Government Act in 1902. Also, you'll see it sometimes referred to as the Organic Act. Same thing. but it is going to establish a governor and a two-house legislature to rule the Philippines. We were allowed to appoint the governor and the upper house, and the Filipinos were allowed to elect the lower house. This is going to be modified by the Jones Act of 1916, which is going to allow the Filipinos to elect both houses, but we still got to pick their governor. And after World War II, July 4th, 1946, the United States is going to grant independence to the Philippines.